world, and welcome to another episode of the South African Spies podcast. Today, we will be introducing a new segment called Clowning with Keaton, and for the segment, Keaton Chetty will be returning to the podcast. What up, Keaton?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hello, everyone who is listening. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for asking me back. First episode was a lot of fun.
I agree. It definitely was a lot of fun. Very excited to have you on this Clowning with Keaton segment that we're starting, because we've got some cool topics to talk about, and obviously really like your perspective and your insight and obviously your delivery. So today's topic is going to be something that you've been sharing a lot of, but we just want to, get into the detail and really have this as an open conversation, since you've been so open about it. But also, I think there's a lot of good information that we can get from you based on your own experiences. And that is going to be religion, but specifically converting the way you have recently done. So first, let's just start off by maybe, asking you to explain a little bit about what religion you were and what you've converted to.
So for me, it was very interesting for me growing up, because I grew up as a Christian. That was the most interesting part about it. So I grew up as a Christian because my mother converted when she married my father. So my father's side were all exclusively Christian. My mother's side, however, was still Tamil. So I was raised in both. Like, I'd go to church on Sunday, I'd go to temple on Friday and Saturday. It was a lot of fun. I'd go for Diwali, I'd celebrate Easter. It was great. It was fun. And I've always been interested in the learning and like the methods of religion, so I could make an informed decision. I don't like it when people are just religious because they're religious. There must be a reason to it, So going through it, even in varsity, went through the same thing. I went deeper into being a Tamil and Hinduism and things like that. Granted, it was because of a girl, but it's fine. So it's okay. You'll find that's on brand for me, especially for what I'm about to say. So 3 years ago, the 15th of February will be 3 years exactly, where I met my future wife. And she is Muslim. And to get a better understanding, and so I could have more things to talk to her about, I was like, let's do some research on Islam, because I had a very surface level of what it was like to be a Muslim, because I had Muslim friends, but also had a thing for Muslim girls. So I needed to talk to them. I told you, it's on brand for me. So I was like, I have something to talk to you about. That boy is so sweet. He wished me Eid Mubarak. Oh, So started doing more and more research, and I started reading, and I have Muslim family as well. And my uncle gave me a Quran, and I started reading, I started doing more research. And then I started realizing that I was researching without the girl in mind. I started doing it. I was like, oh, right, she can go. But just from reading it and discovering more, and like the prophets and the warriors of Islam and what happened, I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. And the more I practiced, the more peaceful I felt. And it was the first time I'd felt that about at peace. And so I decided to take the big leap of faith, shall we say, and I became a Muslim, and I have not looked back. It's been fun.
It's amazing how when you are exposed to other things, in different religions and stuff, that sense of calm that you can get. Yeah, I know, because my mom had the same thing when she also converted to Islam, and this is something I speak about in my previous episode when Mikhail and I talk about religion. But yeah, she converted to Islam and really just found her peace, even though she was a very staunch practicing Tamil. But that was her peace. That was something that made her feel complete and whole inside for herself.
Oh yes, and I think what really helped with that decision was that I've had so many different religious influences. I was brought up as Christian. I was brought up as a Tamil. I have a lot of have a Gujarati friend and his family, and then I had a lot of obviously Muslim people, a lot of Muslim friends, and then one of my best friends, he was Buddhist, and so there was just a lot of information, and that's what I like. I like learning things, and this was the first time where I learned something. I was like, it made me genuinely feel good about what I was learning. I was like, cool.
Wow, you have a Buddhist friend. That's amazing. I would love to
right?
have conversations. Can you imagine those conversations?
Right. It was enlightening. I was like, whoa. And that's why I had this perspective about it, is that I think diversity is very good. I don't think the world would be a better place if everyone was one religion. And that's just a personal thing, because that's how you learn from each other. and you grow together when there's diversity. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I
It's
definitely
okay.
agree with that. I think that's it's a very important point. I think you learn more when you have different perspectives and different
Yeah,
outlooks on life. And religion is one of those things that drives your perspective, your outlook, the way you do things, why you do things, how you do things.
I agree. No, it's so yeah, it's been just an interesting learning experience for me, and that's what I like.
It was a big decision to make for yourself, right? And it's a big decision to make. It's not just like an overnight thing. So
Mm.
you obviously took your time, you did your research, you did what you needed to do to kind of get to that point. And then when you got to that point, you can really only be as successful as you are in converting right now with the support that you have
hmm
around you. So who has been like your biggest support structures and how have they actually supported you through this process?
So it's a bit of a I want to say mixed masala. So like it's on both sides. So let's start with the support. I was very, very lucky because I've heard stories where people's family want to disown them and things like that. Not just because they want to become Muslim, but just because they want to change the religion that is not in the household. There's so many people that have reached out to me. And I feel bad because my story isn't like that. My mom and my sister were extremely supportive throughout the entire thing. There was never a moment where they were like, "Are you sure? Do you really want to do this?" They were like, "No, do it. It's good for you. We know you're making the right decision." Like when I converted, my mom was next to me. Like that's how supportive she is. And my mother is a Christian. She Christian, you know? So it was I'd never had that from my family. Even my my fiance right now, like her family and her friends, because she was obviously Muslim, their family is Muslim, her friends are more Muslim. So I had a lot of support from them as well. And they helped me. And like even her cousins love me, but Islamically they help me as well, you know? So family wise, even the people I expected to not be supportive, like were the old school, like the aunties, you know, the aunties and the uncles, like, "Oh, you sure you want to do that?" You know, as that in my head, I was like, they won't, but they were all insanely supportive. And I think it's because they had to be, because their brother is Muslim. Like my granny's brother is Muslim. So they had no choice. I was like, yeah, good. Forced support, it's fine. But they were all very, very supportive. I think it was weird that it was friends of mine that didn't support me. People who I've like grown up with, people I've known for like 5, 6+ years, who were less supportive than my family. Strangers as well are less supportive. They always ask the same question. They're like, "Oh, but what did your mother think?" I'm like, "What do you mean? My mother was next to me, babes."
Sorry, when you talk about like how people that did support you, like in what ways did they support you? Was it just, kind of giving you that information or giving you that like surety that you're making the right decision and go for it?
Yes, but also it was active support. So Islamically, we pray 5 times a day. Most people who know that, great. My mom feels bad if I miss a prayer. Like if I miss a phone call, the first thing she asks me is like, "I'm so sorry, were you praying?" I'm like, "No, ma, I was in the toilet." You know, it's things like that. It's active support. It's not just supporting the decision; it's supporting the lifestyle. Like my sister, and I'll never forget this. I took my shahada, and my Muslim Islamic name, Arabic name, is Khalid. And so my sister was like, "I'm changing your name right now on my phone to Khalid." I'm like, "You don't have to, but thank you. I appreciate it." You know, it's active support. It's not just this is your decision. Great, you do you, will do. But it's like they all looking for halal restaurants for me. They all making sure that the meat is halal when we eat food, and things like that. And when I tell them that I can't do something, they're not like, "Oh, but why can't you do this?" They're very understanding and supportive in that way.
That must make a world of a difference. And I feel for the people who don't have that kind of support. But I think when you do, and like it's not, because yes, it's your decision to change, but when the people around you and the people who are closest to you take it upon themselves to make it part of their lives, it's such a big impact.
Yeah. Like even this weekend, I went out with a couple friends, and of the 5 of us, I'm the only one that was Muslim. And so I was like, "No, we can go somewhere that isn't halal. I'm just going to make sure that I have vegetarian of a vegetarian, like something that they won't, I know they won't put alcohol when they fry it. They won't fry it in the same pan as they fried bacon or the meat and things like that." And my friend looks at me and he's like, "No, shut up. we're going to a halal restaurant.
Yeah, that is very sweet.
You
Good
know?
thing. Keep them.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, it's gonna make me cry.
Well, talking about alcohol.
Yes.
So I know this is also a big one for you.
Tell me.
I think the assumption has been that now that you've converted, all of a sudden you don't drink, but you actually haven't been drinking for a long time.
A really long time. I think this year will be 4 years that I stopped drinking, like completely. And I think me converting just took it to a new level. I found out recently I found out last year, a couple months before I took my Shahada and became Muslim, there's alcohol in soy sauce. So like I don't consume soy sauce and things like that.
What?
Yeah, there's alcohol in soy sauce, which is it's so frustrating because I love to cook and I know like how things are made. People will be like, "Oh no, have this dessert, have this dessert." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they use brandy in the sauce." Like when people make cheesecake, they use brandy in the cheesecake. So once you know that, I'm like, "Oh my god, there's so many things I can't eat because I know how it's made." It's not even like, "Oh, I didn't know." No, I actively know.
Now you're saying all of these things, and I have to be extra careful with what I eat on a Monday when I'm fasting or during
Yes,
fasting
you do.
times.
Yes, you do. You'd be amazed. Like, and that's why like I don't eat desserts at non-halal restaurants because I know when they make a sauce or a caramel sauce, there's brandy. Yeah, they burn it off, but there's brandy in it. A lot of restaurants cook with it. Even people at home.
When Mikhail cooks,
Yes.
he also he likes to use like some wines in a lot
Yeah.
of his food and brandies in like sauces and stuff. So like that I know, especially cooking at home. But
Yeah. But yeah, I stopped drinking. Like I had the same experience everyone has. Drank too much and I'm like, nah, we're not doing that again.
was it a rough recovery?
No, it was an emotional night. Recovery, I was a champion. I was a champion. To this day, like obviously I don't drink now. But when I did drink, never had a hangover, never had a rough morning. All I did was just wanted to chill. Like, yeah, I was tired, but that was it. It was an emotional night of drinking, and I was like, nah, it's fine. We're done. We don't do that anymore. It's okay.
But like with that change, do you think maybe that was kind of part of the reason that the friend group who didn't agree, did that have anything to do with it?
Ironically, no, if I'm being honest. Like none of us are really big drinkers, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Like it would have to be an event for like our friend circle, even one of us to get drunk.
Yeah.
And mostly that was a birthday. You know, we wouldn't go out on Saturday like, let's go.
Yeah.
There had to be a reason for us to first of all drink and then second of all get drunk. There had to be a reason.
Okay, and then on the flip side of the support is obviously a lot of challenges. I can only imagine that the amount of challenges that you'd get from this, especially somebody being in the spotlight, is probably a lot greater than what a normal average person would experience.
Yeah.
And I know in our intro episode, you did speak a lot about like, some of the comments and the threats and stuff that you've gotten once you started making this content. But apart from that, or maybe in addition to that, what are the other challenges that you've like experienced going on this journey? You did also mention the friends that you've lost. So I think in addition to that.
I won't lie, like that makes me sad because I was like, we would have taken a bullet for each other. This is the line you draw. Like, come on, But I think some of the biggest challenges that I had, and I was speaking to my mother-in-law about this, and we were talking about, so there are certain Qurans that were misprinted on purpose. It's weird. It's a whole story. For me, being a new Muslim, my level of knowledge isn't as great as a practicing or someone who's done this their entire life. So if I'm doing something wrong, I have no idea if I'm doing something wrong. And I think that like it gives me anxiety sometimes.
But that must also be because of the type of person you are. So you're obviously doing this and you want to do it right, but then
exactly, I want to do it properly. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly, And I've noticed this. I've noticed this in my comment section as well, that even Muslim people can't agree on certain things. So it's the funniest thing ever. I watch these comments come through and I'm like, guys, what are we all talking about now? What's going on? What happened? So it's things like that. And my biggest thing is I'd never want to misinform people. So I never tell people like I'm not an Islamic dictionary. I don't make content about knowledge. I make content about my experience and what I have experienced. And that's something I've always done, because then no one can say, oh, you lied. I'm like, no, I didn't. I think my lack of knowledge currently is probably the biggest challenge, because I don't know better.
But you'll get there.
I will get there. And that's what gets me through it, is that I know eventually I will get there. But if someone shows me a verse in the Quran, because I don't know it as well, I wouldn't know if it's like from the Quran or if it's like they edited it. I personally wouldn't know better. That's challenge number one. Challenge number 2 that I found is in Islam. You know this, but if for the audience who doesn't know this, in Islam, the following of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is called the Sunnah, and there's certain things in there that I forget to do, and I'm not actively trying to forget. It just happens. Like eating with your right hand is very important. So sometimes when I open like snacks, like M&Ms, open it with my left hand, I pour it to my left hand. I'm like, it's mainly with snacks. Food, I'm like, Shup, great food. Except when my hand's dirty and I need to drink because you need to drink with your right hand as well. So it's like if I open a bottle of water, because I'm right-handed, I'll open the lid with my right hand and I'll be like,
Also, like when you're busy on your computer or like you're busy with something and then you like eating something and it's like, I'm typing here because I'm faster with this hand, and then you take with your
and I take with my left hand. Goodness gracious, that is something that I need to get used to.
That's going to take some time because that's like a conscious thing that you have to.
I actively have to like try and remember. Like, no. I actually had this conversation with my mom, and she was saying like, "You don't seem that different," and I'm like, "Yes, because I wasn't a terrible person before. Like, I didn't just like flip my whole life around when I accepted Islam, you know." Like now I'm just trying to be a better than I was, but I wasn't like doing cocaine. And then I found Islam and then I stopped cocaine, you know. That's not how it works.
Is that like a common misconception though, that like now that you've changed, everything about you has changed?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I made a video about it. Someone said that I was faking my shahada and faking being Muslim for views. My first thought was like, there's a lot easier ways to get views. There's so many easier ways to get views. Because like right now in summer, your morning prayer, right now it's better. It's like 20 past 4-ish, somewhere around there. Earlier in summer, you hit like 3:30 and you're like, oh my God, what is this like? I wouldn't do that if it was just for views, you know?
Yeah, I think even Ramadan this year, because it's earlier in the year, it's going to be earlier. It's going to be a longer day of fasting.
It's going to be wild this Ramadan. You know, like I wouldn't put myself through that. And personally for me, like I fasted before, so Ramadan isn't really that hard for me. But I wouldn't do it if it was just for views. There'd be no reason behind it, you know?
Also, just the idea of you doing that, like for views, like you're putting a target on yourself just by doing this for yourself. Like making this decision is, I think, very much, you know, you're a target. So there's better ways to do this.
Yeah, like when I my mother-in-law did a preliminary interview with me so that she could find out I wasn't a psychopath. So I'm good enough for her daughter, you know.
And you passed.
I passed. So like one of the things that I told her, and I said that it's very because she was worried that I converted for her daughter, which is small true, but also not. But I was saying that it's very easy to be a fake Muslim. Like I would just need to be Muslim when I come to you guys' house or when I leave the house and things like that, you know. I wouldn't need to learn anything.
Then you're Muslim-ish.
Yeah, I'm not even. It's just like she woke up to go pray. Okay, cool, Shup, I'm going back to bed. You know, it would be I would only need to be Muslim, even then after we married, at like family functions. So it's very easy to be a fake Muslim, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I'm not out here going to masjid on Friday, doing cocaine on Saturday, drinking on Sunday. It's not as wild, especially when you're in the public. It is wild.
Well, I suppose the other misconception, like you mentioned just now, is that you only converted because your fiance is Muslim. And while you say like it is a small part of that, she's like the bridge.
Yes.
That kind of got you to where you were meant to be.
Yes.
Is that a better way to explain it?
That's such a good way of saying it, actually. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna go tell her. I'm gonna tell her today, you know what you are? You're a bridge. She's gonna whack me. I'll be like, no, it's a good thing. No, it's good. That's such a great way of putting it. Because I had a conversation with my best friend and with my fiance as well. She was like, you know, when we met, I thought you were Muslim. I was like, really? Oh, nice. My best friend said the same thing. He was like, bro, I don't know why you thought I wouldn't support you converting. I thought you were Muslim. I was like, oh, nice. So nice.
So it was meant to be. It was just meant to
be. It really was.
And when it comes to your name, is that something that you're gonna, you know, change like on your platforms, or is it like preference for everybody to call you by your Muslim name?
For the name, it's either or. Like I've been Keaton for 25 years, and my name doesn't mean anything like bad. So I didn't even have to change it. I never had to add an Islamic name. So it's more like whichever one you guys feel comfortable with. I'm not going to change my platform names or my business names. However, my platform and business initials and things and logos don't have to change. So it's still KC. So it's either or. Will I change it legally? I don't know. If Home Affairs can work, maybe.
I did it. So I don't mean like now when we're married. So I also speak about this in our religious episode, but you know, for these listeners, Yeah, because I also did everything the Muslim way when my mother converted. So I was super excited. And one of the things I did was also legally change my name. So I went from Alicia Nadiasin to Aisha Al Said Ahmed Hamid Abdul Azab. That was on my birth certificate. And I got a passport at that time with those names on it. And that was legally changed, but nobody called me Aisha. Not at home, not like anywhere. I think the only time that name was ever like used is when my stepfather had like his Muslim friends come home. Then there'd be, oh, this is my, my daughter Aisha.
I feel
That
like
was it.
for me as well, it'll be exactly the same. Even if I change it legally, like the only time I'd hear like my full name now is if I'm in trouble. My mother says my full name.
Yeah, the naming thing has been a thing, but yeah, I think it's nice to have the option. I mean, like you get to choose where it is. And you're right, it is a little bit of a, when you go as a certain name for all this time, I mean, to just automatically change doesn't, no matter how comfortable you are, no matter how right you are, but your name is something so personal to you.
Yeah, like when like her family call me Khalid, it takes me a second. They'll say Khalid. They'll be like, you don't know your name. I'm like, listen here, I don't know my name very well. Haven't heard it for a while. Okay, leave me alone.
And what does your fiance call you?
Either or. Again, if I'm in trouble, I'll hear all of it. Khalid Chetty. I'm like, okay. Oh, what I did. I just woke up. I couldn't have done anything. But I've noticed she introduces me to like Muslim friends and family and things like that as Khalid. And that's purely because I'm pretty sure on our engagement notice, it said we could announcing the engagement of Fayada and Khalid.
That makes sense.
So that her family know face Khalid, how's it? What's up? But it's either or for her as well.
Did she have the expectation for you to convert in order for you guys to get married?
Yes. She actually told me that because I didn't know that. I thought it worked both ways. Like Muslim men can marry non-Muslim women. Muslim women cannot marry non-Muslim men. And I didn't know that at the time. But as I was doing more research, I'm like, Shup, that's fine. It is what it is. It's nothing crazy. And we always joke about this. It's not something that changed my life crazy.
I think a lot of those change, like the way religion kind of changes your life is not an external thing. I mean, apart from, certain limitations and stuff that you have to like kind of look for and abide by. And that's like for you, finding halal restaurants, like those kind of changes. But I think a lot of the change actually happens more internally. So how you perceive things, how you, like what your beliefs are, what kind of drives you to act a certain way and to do certain things and to think certain things, and the consideration that you give to certain things based on those beliefs.
And again, I will stand by what you're saying, because I cannot say with confidence that Islam changed my life. I can't say that because I wasn't a horrible person before. Islam just pointed me in a new direction, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think so too. Maybe I understand it a little bit better because I've also been through this thing with not experimenting, but exploring different religions. I also love to learn. I love to gain insights. I like to understand why people do certain things, how they do certain things. What's the meaning behind it? Because nobody just wakes up and is like, I have to do this because I have to do this. No,
exactly.
There's always a meaning. There's always a reason. It stems from something. Once you understand that, you have a much better appreciation for these things.
Exactly. Because you understand why. It's not just do it or you're going to hell.
Yeah. Now, from all your content that you do, this is probably the most controversial. Am I right?
Surprisingly, no. I think it's less controversial now that I'm Muslim. But it's controversial to I don't want to say core audience because that's a lie, but to maybe like the original audience. I think the original audience were mainly Hindu, so like they have problems with it.
But like your original audience, did they also think that you were, as your main religion, like when you started, did they think that you were Hindu practicing?
Ironically, no, they thought I was Muslim.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a...
That's so confusing.
When I look back at it, I'm like, what is going on? I don't even understand it myself, guys. What is Qananin on here?
What a journey.
It has been a wild ride. When I tell you that every time I open up Instagram or TikTok, I make a video, I'm just confused. At this point, it's not even like, who can I make laugh today? It's, who can I piss off today?
Oh, maybe we should change this to the confused clown and not the...
I'm the confused clown. My goodness gracious me, it is wild.
Do you actually go through all your comments?
Yes, I do. Just because I know there are like people who sometimes they have a question. I'm like, if I can help, But if not, I don't respond to most comments. To negative comments, I respond because it's funny. I don't know if you've ever seen the person who runs the Duolingo page, their responses, like the
Yes.
official United Kingdom was like, I don't need to learn another language. And Duolingo responded is like, yes, you do. It's good for you, colonizer. I'm like, that's how I aspire to be in my comment section. Because there are people, there's so many people. I'm just like, I'm tired of leaving you all alone. Like, I don't give you all attention, but now it's just funny. Now I'm just going to make myself laugh.
There's been a lot of like those kind of like negative things and a lot of the challenges and stuff. But I also feel that when you are going through the process and like you're learning a new religion and you're learning about all these new things, there's certain things that you enjoy a lot more. Like, what are those type of things that you've either enjoyed, learning about, or now that you've converted, that you actually really do enjoy practicing or doing?
There's stories of how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam treated his wives or wife, because they're never specific, which I will get into in a second. But the way he treats women and his wife, I love that. It's beautiful. That and learning about certain Islamic warriors and what they did and things like that. Like my name is Khalid, based on a warrior called Khalid ibn Walid, and he is known as the perfect warrior. He did not die in battle. He could not be killed. His name means the sword of Allah, and he was one of two soldiers in history that died on their deathbed because he could not be killed in battle. He was just a machine. And I resonated with that story a lot because he wasn't Muslim. He fought against the Prophet and he fought against the spread of Islam, and then he became a Muslim and then he fought for Islam. I'm like, twinsies, twinsies.
Yeah,
like,
that's very fitting, especially like when I think about you being the warrior in your comment section.
yes. I fight back. So like I love learning about those things, especially because like this is gonna sound so wild, but I stand by it. People think this is a story of peace and things like that. I'm like, no, it's a story of vengeance. I like learning things so that when you're wrong, I can attack you with knowledge. Because now when my Muslim friends are like, oh, I feel so bad, we haven't seen each other in so long, and this and that, I quote the Quran back to them. I'm like, shut up, things happen, it's fine. I come with knowledge. That's been my favorite part. Learning things so I can like be like, don't contradict yourself. I'm learning too. I have the knowledge. Like you can't just talk cuck. Those things. The learning parts, like learning everything. I'm just like, away. And actually making salah, like praying, like when I feel anxious, so when I feel angry, and I'm like, let me go pray. Let's take a breather. And
That's really nice.
yeah, by the time I'm done making salah, I'm like, yeah, I feel better. I don't know why I was overreacting. Such a drama queen.
That's another level of inner peace.
It's so nice. I won't lie. I feel like what's in from Poe, from Kung Fu
Kung Fu
Panda.
Panda.
Inner peace.
I think that's also another sign that you're like on the right path and that you're doing that something that is best for you.
I think so. I don't know. I think it's good. I don't know how to explain it personally.
Mhm.
Like I have no way of explaining like how I feel when I practice certain things in Islam. All I know is that I feel good, I feel at peace, and I know I can correct people who are wrong, who want to cause problems for their own religion. I'm like, relax. Muslim people can have a sense of humor. Yeah, man. Everyone thinks we can't be funny. I'm like, babes, relax. It's sunnah to laugh.
This is also like another testament that religion is such a deeply personal choice, because each person also, whatever you practice, whatever you do, however you do it, makes you feel a particular way. And like you said, it's a very difficult thing to describe to somebody else because it's yours. It's personal.
People experience the same religion differently.
Yeah, definitely.
It's weird. It's wild. People will contradict themselves. The way I see it is we are followers of a certain religion. We are not messengers. It is not our job to spread the word. It's our job to just be the best version that we can be and let others see it. That's all we need to do.
Doesn't that go against Islam though?
Ironically, no. And that's a very bad misconception that a lot of Muslims have, which is why they want everyone to be Muslim. But our job as Muslims is not to spread the word. We are not messengers. We are not prophets. Our job is to be good Muslims and to show others what Islam is, not to bring others into Islam. In the Quran, it says, who are we to take someone else away from their faith?
That has not been my experience.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very bad thing. And I've had this conversation with a couple Muslim people as well. Said, because most people who went to like madrasa and they grew up Muslim, they did a lot of things out of fear. And because of that, they were turned away completely from the religion. Like as adults, they're just not religious people. And I'm like, if you just did things because you loved it, your entire outlook would change. As well, like even my first Ramadan, people were like, "Oh, you should struggle. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that." Muslim people who are fasting their entire lives said, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "It's fine. I'm okay. Like it's a normal day for me." They're like, "Oh, but how?" I'm like, "Because flip your perspective. We don't have to fast. We get to fast. Because for other people, there are people in the world where it's Ramadan every day and they don't get to eat when the sun sets.
That's true. That's also about like that perspective. I think like even things like that, though, is also very strongly linked to your faith, your own personal faith, because I find for myself, like I was in the house as a child, going to school and stuff. I was happy. I was fasting, no issues. I managed to do it. Nothing would stop me. My mother and they would say, "No, it's fine. I feel bad for you." I'm like, "But I'm fine. I feel good. Like this is, this is what I want. I'm happy. Like let me do it." And that's because when you have that belief in it's something you want to do, it will come easier.
Exactly. Like if you love it, it's easier. You can do it long term as well.
Yeah.
If you actively love the thing you do.
Yeah. Okay. So with everything said and done, you are well experienced and you've obviously been well exposed to kind of like other religions. But from your own experience, what advice would you give to anybody in this journey? And I don't particularly mean in this journey of converting to Islam, but looking at making a change to any religion from what they are currently practicing.
Two pieces of advice. I think the biggest one is make an informed decision. Like experience it, read about it, do something. Because for me, the best way to learn about something is to do it. The learning is in the doing. They used to tell us that all the time at varsity, and I agree. Like if you want to learn something, just try it, do it, see how you feel. Do you feel better afterwards? Do you feel worse afterwards? But you'll never know unless you do it. So if you're thinking about changing religion or taking up a religion, or you just want to read about it, just read about it. Start doing research. And you don't have to, if you don't like reading, that's fine. YouTube is a thing. YouTube is a great university. You can learn almost anything. My first advice would be like do research and make an informed decision based on how you feel. Because at the end of the day, it's a very individual, personal experience. No one can force you, no one can change it, just it's yours. Do it. And number two, you have to think of it realistically. If you have a call into a religion, but your parents are going to kick you out the house, maybe wait till they can't kick you out the house. But if you cannot wait, do it, and you're going to have to deal with the consequences, I guess, if there are any. What I've learned so far is that if people don't accept that choice, they were never going to accept you regardless. Might as well just quit and go with it.
Sure, that's a deep one.
So much wisdom, man. Oh, my head's so big.
That's going to leave some pondering, which is a good thing, because these are decisions that should never be made in haste or for anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, just to kind of like round off this topic, I'm sure it is going to come up in many of our other conversations kind of linking to it, but is there anything that you would like to say based on your personal experience, just like your final message on this particular topic relating to you?
My favorite thing, and I've loved this even before I was particularly religious, is don't use religion as an excuse to be a bad person. And I think a lot of the times, because like we always say God is very forgiving if you ask for forgiveness. So don't do something bad because you can ask for forgiveness. Like don't be a bad person in the name of your religion.
Yeah, no, I think everybody knows somebody who does these things. Yeah. So we don't even have to go into detail about it because guaranteed somebody.
Everyone, just don't use religion as a crutch to be a bad person.
Well, Keaton, this is really good. Thank you for being so candid and be willing to open up about your own experience and stuff. We chatted about, it is quite difficult, I think, to go through this experience and do it in the limelight or when people are watching you and constantly being a target. I think the flip side of that, I do think it's nice that you can kind of be somebody that other people can look up to, who want to do this change, and the fact that you've done it and, you're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. It does give some comfort for anybody else in that situation. So thank you for that. Right. I wish you luck on the rest of this journey and that it stays constantly fulfilling as it is now.
Thank you. That's so sweet, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I love being here. I love having these conversations. I feel like more of these conversations need to be had.
Definitely. And I think from all different perspectives, because what I find is that a lot of people want to have these conversations, but then you're still very limited to what you can and can't say on it, as opposed to it being true to your own experience and your own views. And that's why we're having this, so that this is true to your experience, your views. And that makes it a little bit more relatable, I hope.
I think so.
Until our next informative conversation in the series, Shup, sweet and aware. Lots of love.